Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be covering 5 reasons to hire a bookkeeper, along with some other useful information around cash flow management and trust account compliance. My name's Bianca and I am the bookkeeper manager at Leap. So I've been with Leap for about 6 years now, utilising my legal and accounting knowledge to assist firms implement and flourish with Leap. As Leap Bookkeeping Manager, I'm leading a team dedicated to providing our clients with a tailored offering focused on providing legal trust account and general legal bookkeeping services. Before we get started with the webinar today, I wanted to go through a few housekeeping rules for those of you who haven't attended one of our webinars before. So firstly, if I could please have everyone raise their hand using the little green hand icon in the top right-hand side of the screen. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Perfect, thank you. I can see some hands going up now. Also, I wanted to note that today's webinar is in listen-only mode, which means you can hear me, but I can't hear you. So please make sure to type any questions you have throughout the webinar in the question box in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So if I can't answer your question during the webinar as we go through, I'll contact you directly after we finish as well. So first thing I'll cover is what to expect for today. So first things first, what is a legal bookkeeper and what do they do? So legal bookkeepers help firms running smoothly by keeping track of daily transactions. So this one's probably the first thing that people think of when they're thinking bookkeeper. So a bookkeeper can handle that recording of day-to-day transactions against both the office and trust accounts. Automatic bank feeds could be set up to automate some of this data entry too, and your bookkeeper can assist with implementing some of these time savers for the firm. Next on the agenda is 5 key reasons to hire a bookkeeper. So that's our title piece today. And leading on from this, I wanted to talk about cash flow management and expand on this a bit further. So what is it? Is your firm currently considering this at all? And I also want to mention a few key things to help improve cash flow management at your firm. Next, I have trust account compliance and a few key tips here on how to manage a trust account. And finally, I'd like to give you some further information on the Leap Bookkeeping service and my team and what we can do. So as I said, first things first, what is a legal bookkeeper and what can they do for firms? So the keeping track of daily transactions, that's the primary there that everyone thinks of. Other things that bookkeepers can look after is generating invoices and debtor management. So asking for and following up on payments is something lawyers often tell me they put off because it just makes them feel uncomfortable. They feel like they've developed a great relationship with the client, but now having to follow up on those outstanding invoices, they just don't like it. So this is the task often given to a bookkeeper: generating the invoices, monitoring the aged debtor reports, and sending out statements when needed to clients too. Next on the list is handling accounts payable. So bookkeepers can take the standard payment of supply invoices, expenses, and petty cash off your plate. When instructing your bookkeeper, you might provide a dollar amount perhaps that the bookkeeper can go up to without needing your approval for payment of those regular invoices. Amounts higher than that, the invoice and expenses will go through yourself for approval first. So you know you aren't giving up control there. Next thing that can help with is monitoring cash flow, and this is a big one that we're going to be touching on later in the webinar, and as it's often overlooked and not considered at a firm. Reconciling your accounts, so ensuring office and trust accounts are reconciled regularly helps ensure those irregularities are picked up and rectified promptly, and allows you to have a more accurate picture of what's happening in the firm too. So of course, as we all hopefully know, the prompt reconciliations are required for compliance as well for your trust, and legal bookkeepers should be an expert in trust legislation in your state and help you through those regulations and requirements there too. The next thing is reporting meaningful figures. So legal bookkeepers understand how law firms operate and the reporting requirements there. So they can prepare reports, present and explain different figures that actually mean something to you as well. So with all this in mind, when should you hire a bookkeeper if you haven't already? It's as soon as you start a law firm. So you must deal with numbers from the start. And although it's something you can do yourself, most lawyers aren't trained in bookkeeping. And you also didn't become a lawyer or conveyancer to do bookkeeping. So when you're starting out, a lot of lawyers feel like they must do everything themselves initially, but this can actually hamper your growth. At the end up spending all your time completing these non-billable tasks rather than practicing law or performing your conveyancing work. You also miss out on spending time growing your business and focusing on that business development and finding new work for your firm. I also know some principals who then fell into bad habits and continued with these tasks as their firm continued to grow, but they often had to do it late at night after the client workload of the day had been finished off. I wanted to stop here before I get into the rest of the content of the webinar and talk about what's your biggest frustration or concern with your bookkeeping at the moment. So I've got a potential couple things up on the screen now to get us started, but things like are you currently doing yourself and you lack the time to proactively manage your books? Are you unsure of processes and need assistance there or training or helping hand? So I can see a few are coming in. So someone's here noting lingering debtors, struggling to reconcile trust account on time. This one's interesting. So this one's saying they haven't opened a trust account because, right, so they don't have time to deal with the records or regulations around trust. So that's actually an interesting one, and I'm touching more on trust and trust compliance later in the webinar. So maybe I might talk about that one in a bit more detail then. This one is unsure of the best way to manage debtors in LEAP. So this is something I won't be able to take you through today in the different functions, but organising a training session for the firm covering this would be worthwhile. So I'll get in touch after the webinar, but looking at things like the debtor reports, debtor comments initially, statement mailing functionality available, and then having templates set up for the different stages of chasing debt so they're ready to go when you need would be definitely worthwhile. So setting out those processes for a firm around debtor management from the get-go is definitely something we can assist with. So I'll get in touch on that one. Quite a few other ones coming in as well. I'll continue with the webinar now, but I'll try and look at a few more at the end of the webinar, or I'll get in touch directly with you to discuss these ones as well. Okay, so next I've got the 5 reasons to hire a bookkeeper. First up is they save you time. So unless you already know about bookkeeping, initially you're going to need to learn and spend time learning how to do your bookkeeping, and let alone spending the time ongoing to do the work itself. Entering your trust transactions, office receipts, generating invoices, that's only part of the work. And a good legal bookkeeper understands these transactions, but can also make sense of them and provide you with those useful reports. Bookkeeper who's dedicated to looking after law firms will be able to efficiently perform these duties, often more quicker than you can do it yourself as well. Next reason I have for you today is to help with your work-life balance. And I know work-life balance, it's one of those buzzwords that everyone says, especially at the moment, but it's something that often people don't actually spend time reviewing and looking at how they personally can achieve this. So for example, like if you're currently spending 2 hours each night entering the daily banking, receipts, generating invoices and different reports for the firm, consider the impact of having a dedicated bookkeeper assist you once a week just to get this work done for you, freeing up those hours so you can either be at home with the family, having dinner at a reasonable hour, or spending that time actually working on your business and finding new clients for the firm. Next reason I have for you is they can take away unnecessary stress. So I know a lot of lawyers who have a constant stress about their books, in particular the trust account. It might not be at the forefront of their mind all the time, but it's definitely in there subconsciously. Something they're managing themselves, but they never feel like they're in control of, and they're always playing catch up. So catch up to enter transactions themselves, or to catch up the reconcile each month. So whenever the 15th of a month passes and they haven't done that reconcile and they haven't finalised it off, they can't get that weight off their shoulders, or truly relax and switch off until that reconcile has been finalised. Then, of course, when the audit comes around, all that second guessing and concern about how late they entered some transactions, how they didn't reconcile a few months in time, or just general stress about the audit process itself, all comes back up again. So having a dedicated person come in and manage a trust account can help take away some of that stress for you. So next one here, I've got, next reason is they can help keep your cash flow under control. And as I mentioned, I want to touch on this a bit more later in the webinar as well, but forecasting your cash flow and keeping this in check is vital for business growth. So often people fall into the trap of looking at their bank balance and thinking that this represents the money they have available to them. Looking solely at that bank balance, it's going to get you in trouble, as this doesn't show you the liabilities that are looming or even outstanding, and all your items that you owe there. So a bookkeeper can keep an eye on these accounts on a regular basis, and those suppliers payments, especially those recurring ones that are regular, you know when they're going to come in each month. Not having enough money to pay your staff 1 week, it's a terrible thing. No one wants to be in that position if they get caught off guard with an insurance bill that comes in, for example. So keeping control of your cash flow is really important. Final reason here is they help keep you compliant. So are you across all the trust requirements in your state? Many people aren't across the various times. You must provide a trust statement to your clients, or different reporting requirements around the place. So I've seen many firms continually fall behind in their trust reconciliations and are not able to complete these by the required deadline each month. A bookkeeper is there to ensure these deadlines aren't missed and to make sure all trust accounts and general office too are all kept compliant. Instances keep arising of lawyers getting themselves into strife with their trust account by simply not actioning requests from auditors in a timely fashion, and having support from a bookkeeper to meet those requests can help avoid those situations altogether. Okay, so I want to expand, as I said, on these last two a bit further today in the webinar for us. So first up, have you let your cash flow management slip, or are you currently considering this in your firm at all? I've got a few tips here of ways you can improve your cash flow in your business and things to consider. So first up is speeding up your receivables. How quickly your clients pay and how you manage outstanding invoices is one of the biggest factors in just determining the strength of cash flow. So first up there is maintaining a trust account and having money in trust up front. If you can do this, this means you won't need to spend that additional time potentially chasing payments and debt later. Offering more payment options is next. The online payment system available in Leap and the credit card and the BPay options provides easier methods for clients to pay your bills, which in turn leads to quicker payments from them. If you relate it back to when you receive bills yourself, when you can quickly pay a bill, you're more likely to pay it as you receive it rather than placing it into the too hard basket to be actioned later. So payment options is definitely a big one. Regular invoicing. So how regularly are you invoicing at your firm at the moment? What are your payment terms? Some clients might prefer smaller regular invoices rather than a large one at the conclusion of a matter. They're more digestible, more manageable payments. Debtor management and just staying on top of your debtors. Are you checking the age of your debtors regularly? Are you following up with your debtors? If someone isn't able to pay the full amounts of an invoice perhaps initially, are you discussing additional payment options for them, maybe payment plans and setting those up for the client? Stretch payables. So on the other hand, we've got the receivables. On the payables side, cash flow is also affected by how and when you pay your bills too. And then overall, making a cash flow strategy. So spend time reviewing and updating the cash flow strategy to capture what money is coming in and how much money is flowing out to pay various expenses and when they are. So if you've got your regular ones that you know are monthly, having them in the strategy so you can see when things are due and when things are needed to be paid, especially those yearly expenses we incur. If we forecast them out, we can see what's going on. Having that strategy, it lets you see how much cash surplus or shortage your business may encounter in any given week or month. And by completing that forecast, you can be in a better position today to spot future cash flow problems, so you can take corrective action when needed. Next on my list is key tips to keep on top of your trust account. So for those of you who run a trust account, keeping on top of your accounts and meeting compliance requirements is vital. Having a busy firm is great, but if you allow things to slip because of the busyness, you're going to end up going backwards in your firm and hamper your growth. So key tips I've got for you here. It's quite simple, but things to think about is just recording transactions as you go. So having these transactions recorded frequently, it helps to ensure items don't get forgotten about and that you meet those requirements around entry. Maintain accurate records. So flowing on from recording as you go, you've got to ensure that your records are accurate and as detailed as possible. I met with a client and helped them update their trust reconciliations, and they had a bank error from quite a few months ago that were holding them up in their reconciliations. And if they hadn't kept those detailed notes of what actually occurred back then around that bank error, it would have taken us so long to go through and revisit the different transactions just to piece together what happened back then. So always take notes and keep track of what's going on, and more notes the better. And next is just to reconcile regularly. So if you can reconcile and do the save for later throughout the month, you're giving yourself the ability to locate and fix up any errors before the end of month reconciliation time. So you can avoid the need for additions. Also means that the transactions are fresh in everyone's minds as you're looking at it. So if there's something in there you're not sure of, it's fresh. You can piece together what's going on. Now here, it might be a good time here just to stop and answer one of those questions I saw from that question poll earlier. Let me just scroll back through it. So someone mentioned they didn't have time for a trust account because of those reporting requirements and regulations surrounding it. So they've just put off, they've put off opening it up. That's an interesting one because in some instances, I think not having a trust account can actually create more work for yourself, which is contrary to that initial perception sometimes. If you operate a trust account, it lets you hold that money on behalf of clients and it allows you to ensure prompt payment of your invoices and third-party invoices as well. In Leap, you can request money to the trust account really simply. It's probably one of my favourite functions, which is with the online payment system, and that automates the receipting step for you as well. These tasks all do take time, and it does take time to go through the reporting requirements and regulations. I totally get that, but having that money on hand and authorised to be used for your invoices, it does mean that you'll have payment against your invoices at 7 days after invoicing, rather than needing to spend that time potentially chasing debt and arranging payment plans with clients too. It actually ties in nicely with the cash flow management I mentioned earlier as well. So I mentioned arranging those payment plans for clients if they couldn't pay the whole invoice amount. If you had that trust account set up and your client does manage their finances week to week, in fact, while you're acting for a client, they could start depositing money into your trust account straight away. So as soon as you start acting for them, they could be putting in $50 per week. If you're a firm that invoices at the end of the matter, that client could have entered a few months potentially of weekly payments into trust already, rather than having to wait and start seeing this cash flow trickle in after you've invoiced them. Another feature available actually with the online payment system before I move on is the installment plan feature, which can actually assist with setting these arrangements up too. Next I have for you, I wanted to take you through what the LEAP bookkeeping service is and what my team is looking after now to help you there. So to help you with your bookkeeping needs, we have this LEAP bookkeeping service which you can instruct to take on some of these tasks that you just don't have time for. So the Bookkeeper service, it's a tailored offering focused on providing legal trust account and general legal bookkeeping services to clients. At LEAP, we understand that law firms have those unique accounting prerequisites, and regardless of which area of law you practice, the LEAP bookkeepers can ensure your firm is trusted, accounting compliant, allowing you to stay focused on your clients' needs without sacrificing the profitability of your business. So I've got in here, our bookkeepers are expert in LEAP and they don't require additional training. They use their own LEAP login, so if you were getting us to look after your books for you, you wouldn't need to purchase an additional user for us. It saves you that cost of an additional user per month. They're also experts in trust legislation in each state, which I think is really important to make sure your bookkeepers are legal bookkeepers and they understand how a law firm works and the trust accounts, because there are a lot of things to consider there. If you're having assistance, even for an hour a week, it could give you that peace of mind that these tasks are being looked after for you, and we can talk you through various options we have available. So as I said, it's a tailored offering, as each firm needs something different from their bookkeeping. So on reflection there, what does your current bookkeeping situation look like? Are you managing it yourself, or is everyone in the firm pitching in a little bit? Trust is a big one at the firm, at different firms. So we can come in, or a bookkeeper can come in and reconcile your trust accounts and look after your end of month processes. So your end of month, you've got to consider, it includes generating the reports and doing the reconciliation, but it also includes monitoring your dormant matters, looking after your unpresented checks, monitoring outstanding anticipated deposits, requesting for trust. If you start using that online payment system I mentioned for those anticipated deposits, following up and making sure those clients are putting that money in for you as well. So there's a lot of processes there that I hope you're looking at and considering at your firm. If you need bookkeepers, or we can take it further and be looking after recording those transactions as well on a weekly basis. We could be recording any transaction in your trust, or moving onto the office. In LEAP, we could be generating your WIP reports, invoicing, managing debtors, and running any other management reports you want. And then, like I said, for the trust, we could also be entering those disbursements, reconciling your InfoTrack searches against their monthly statements, for example. And then we're also trained in MYOB and Xero, so we could be reconciling your office accounts, your credit cards, and different general ledger accounts, and entering those different transactions and disbursements in your MYOB or Xero as well. So there are so many different tasks that you could get a bookkeeper to look after for your firm, or things that you need to be considering at your firm to make sure you're looking after your accounts proactively. So having a conversation around what your firm needs and how things are working is vital. If you're behind in your reconciliations at the moment, need some assistance to get back up to date, or need some training as well, this is definitely something we can assist you with. So on the next little slide here, I've got some information here. For more information about the service, you can email us at leapbookkeepingservice@leap.com.au, or call the 1-800 number there. I've also got the website address up there for you as well. And to start wrapping up my webinar today, when should you hire a bookkeeper? The sooner the better. If you haven't already hired one, you should look at doing it. You shouldn't get yourself into a position and start drowning or falling behind in your accounts. Definitely reach out and get that extra help that you need. A bookkeeper can help you create that order out of chaos. They'll make sure your trust account is reconciled and compliant, and they can turn all the numbers flowing through your business into meaningful financial information for you. If you're currently managing your own accounts, just think about your hourly rate as well. How much time are you spending doing this non-billable work yourself each week? What could you be better spending your time doing and working through? I'm just having a look through some of the other questions that have come in to see if there's any other ones I could answer now before we finish up. Invoicing, bills. closed a trust account. Some of these ones that are coming in, I'll give you a call afterwards or send you through an email with some answers to some of these questions that are in the list here. I'll finish up the webinar today. I hope you've taken away some useful information and thought about some other things you might not have been considering in your firm already, things around the end of month processes for trust and those extra sort of steps that people don't often realise that are needed, things around the cash flow management. As I said, it's something that's quite often completely ignored or forgot about in your firm as well. So thanks so much for attending. I'll end it here, and if you have any questions about the service, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.